Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Foreign news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, Melissa makes landfall, the strongest storm to hit Jamaica in nearly 200 years. Biggest cyclone on Earth this year touches down already, responsible for 7 deaths and massive devastation.
Hi, I'm Michael Johnson. Teams in Jamaica where we're surrounded by the reconstruction of roads and homes and concerns over flooding mudslides.
The Pentagon announces the single deadliest airstrikes against alleged narco-terrorists they say tried to smuggle drugs into the U.S. 14 people killed, bringing the death toll to 57 since the president began his campaign last month.
I'm Mary Bruce in the White House with details on the deadliest day of U.S. strikes against alleged drug traffickers and the president's latest plan to fight the cartels.
The ceasefire in the Mideast on the brink of collapse just 3 weeks in. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu orders powerful airstrikes across Gaza, claiming the most violent in terms of the agreement.
With the response from Hamas to today's attacks, and what happens next?
And Texas is suing the makers of Tylenol, claiming the company hid autism risks following President Trump's claims last month without evidence that the use of Tylenol during pregnancy can cause autism in children. We'll talk to the lead counsel for Texas about that lawsuit. And TSA and air traffic control workers get their first $0 paycheck, reflecting 2 weeks of unpaid work as the government shutdown drags on. No word as to when they'll be paid next. What's being done to help the people tasked with keeping our skies safe?
From BBC's World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime
Morning. Ahead after that, Ginger Z is standing by with the track, but first, Megan Jaji joins us from Kings.
From BBC's World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. It is a busy Tuesday night, and we begin with Hurricane Melissa, the massive storm making landfall as a Category 5, the strongest ever to touch down in Jamaica. Images of the devastation are just starting to come in. Brutal winds and blinding rain pounded Jamaica for hours, and up to 40 inches. Yes, 40 inches of rain are expected in some places. A storm surge of 13 feet. The powerful storm destroying homes, lifting boats out of the water, ripping down power lines. Residents and families on vacation are being forced to take shelter. Resorts have converted ballrooms and theaters into shelters for guests. Melissa's weakening on track still to make its second landfall in Cuba tomorrow morning. Where will it head after that? Ginger Z is standing by with the track, but first, Megan Jaji joins us from Kingston, Jamaica.
I hope you enjoy the Halloween candy. You can really taste the FiberCon.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. So Halloween is just around the corner. It's that special time of year when certain people keep saying, no, I'm not wearing a mask. Speaking of, on Saturday night in Pennsylvania, police found a bag of cocaine in a child's Halloween candy. Yeah, the kid was so coked up he went trick-or-treating a week early. Even more, he was able to get candy from 1,400 houses in under 12 minutes. According to a new poll, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has a better chance of becoming president than Kamala Harris. Also, according to the poll, anyone within Johnson has a better chance of becoming president than Kamala Harris. So Ron Mamdani claims the aunt, who was a victim of 9/11 due to her fear of wearing a hijab on the subway, was actually his father's cousin who was deceased and may not or may have been in the country at the time. He directed all future questions to his spokesperson. That's just smell for you blind people at home. Juicy. Last night, the LA Dodgers beat the Toronto Blue Jays 6-5 after 18 innings. The game took so long because ice agents kept raiding the dugout. Yeah, we're talking a long game. The Dodgers pitching staff actually had time to learn English. Because they're Asian. In a recent speech, President Trump joked he doesn't like good-looking people. So he's finally admitting he had sex with Stormy Daniels. Oh, wow. Wow, too soon. Finally, Eric Swalwell is demanding that every 2028 Democrat presidential candidate promise to demolish the new White House ballroom. With fellow Democrat Jerry Nadler pledging, I am ready to destroy any White House bathroom. You don't have to if you don't really mean it. So Republicans released their report on the cover-up of Joe Biden's line. And like the best nude beaches seniors, it's stuff that I already knew. They concluded that Biden's actions cannot be deemed at the end of President Biden signed on null and void, which was the original for the Biden-Harris campaign. Actually, those decisions. So they sent their findings to the DOJ. Pam Bondi even says she's going to review the reports. So bad, the auto is threatening to plead the fifth. The Congress can't act on voiding them, and the DOJ can't legally challenge certain EOs and war parties. But we knew this stuff, that the White House controlled everything from Joe's makeup, clothing, schedule, to even the number of steps he could walk. Because if they didn't, the guy could turn a short walk to a death. And the string goes. But isn't the real story? It's whether a damning congressional report on an invalid president will ever be taken seriously by those who covered it up. Not just the Dems, but the media. If they don't have a reckoning and admit their role, they're toast. And this report can serve as their test. Especially for CBS, who hired a new boss to shake things up and create a balanced network, which granted would be as daunting as getting Katie Porter laid. I know. God love her. Someone has to. But will all the guilty parties, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, all of them cover this honestly? Will they evolve? Or are they dinosaurs seeing a common approach taking? Tonight, the devastating direct hit, Hurricane Melissa slamming into Jamaica as a Category 5, the life-threatening storm, stronger than Katrina, the most powerful Atlantic this year. The massive hurricane roared onshore, winds hitting 185 miles per hour. Drenching rains already flooding parts of the island. Hotel guests packing into ballrooms for safety. 25,000 tourists still on the island. Officials now cautioning crocodiles may be in the floodwaters. With the Jamaican Prime Minister just told me about how hospitals are destroyed and where the monster storm is heading next. Al Roker standing by. Will the ceasefire hold Israel's retaliatory strikes in Gaza after it says Hamas violated the Trump ceasefire deal? The Trump administration's biggest strikes yet on boats, it says, were smuggling drugs to the U.S. 14 people killed with one survivor. Chilling testimony as teachers recount the day a first-grade teacher was shot by her 6-year-old student. Further this morning signs, Amazon cutting 14,000 jobs as more businesses slash their workforce. How AI is partly to blame. Shocking dashcam video police racing after a stolen ambulance with a paramedic and patient still inside. How the dramatic chase ended. The medical monkeys breaking free after a truck carrying them overturns. The fears that they're carrying disease and the race to capture them. This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Young's. And good evening.
And I'm Amna Navaz. On the News Hour tonight, Hurricane Melissa slams into Jamaica as the most powerful storm in the country's recorded history.
It is sort of unprecedented in its scale and ferocity, because if it's not concrete, it's likely to be significantly damaged.
Israel launches strikes in Gaza, it says, in retaliation for an attack on its soldiers, once again testing the ceasefire deal with Hamas.
And critical food stamp benefits for millions of Americans become the next potential casualty of the ongoing government shutdown.
Hurricane Melissa roars into Jamaica this Tuesday night. All we can do is wait for the flight of those caught in the storm, including Canadians. Israel's deadly new strikes on Gaza, the fracture of the ceasefire, and what Israel is accusing Hamas of. The violent online extremist group preying on young people. It gets to the point that children feel that there's no other way out. The Canadian teenager charge, how victims have been lured, and the advice to parents. Plus, marathon matchup. The hopes the Blue Jays can bounce back from that late-night loss. Good evening and thanks for joining us. One of the strongest hurricanes ever recorded has made landfall in Jamaica. Locals and tourists are riding it out now, told to take cover as the National Hurricane Center warns of an extremely dangerous, life-threatening situation. This is what Hurricane Melissa looked like from space just before landfall. That swirling mass packing maximum sustained winds of nearly 300 kilometers an hour. It intensified right before hitting, something that is becoming more common as the climate warms. And though it's now been downgraded to a Category 4, it moves slowly across Jamaica, and there are fears of flash flooding and landslides. Jackson Crosco has our top story tonight.
Melissa made landfall as a storm for the history books, ripping across the western side of Jamaica with winds approaching 300 kilometers per hour.
Today will be very difficult for tens of thousands, if not millions of people in Jamaica. Roads will be tested, flood will arise. Isolation will become a harsh reality for many.
The winds alone were described as unsurvivable, testing the limits of shelters.
Catastrophic wind damage expected in the eye wall here. Total building failures. Storm surge pushed into communities. In the mountains, catastrophic flooding unfolded, while tens of thousands of residents were left without power.
Jamaica, this is not the time to be brave. Don't bet against medicine.
The owners of this restaurant struggled to pull down their roof, while stranded tourists rode out the storm in a resort movie theater. Melissa is so powerful, a Hurricane Hunter plane that flew into the eye encountered extreme turbulence. The crew returned to base, fearing damage to their aircraft.
All we can do is wait and see what happens.
And Will Clarity and Daniel Dutoulette from Montreal in a bar on the west end of the island. This was their view as Melissa arrived. They had
DemocracyNow.org. War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Officials in warning of an unfolding catastrophe as Hurricane Melissa bears down on the island nation with sustained winds of up to 175 miles per hour. The Category 5 storm is the strongest on Earth this year and the most powerful hurricane on record ever to strike Jamaica, likely to trigger widespread flooding and landslides with catastrophic damage to buildings in the path of the hurricane's eye. Some parts of Jamaica could see up to 40 inches of rain, more rain than typically falls in an entire year. Melissa's already killed 3 people each in Jamaica and Haiti, and 1 person in the Dominican Republic. Hurricane warnings are also in effect for parts of Cuba and the Bahamas. Meanwhile, many Haitians fear the storm could worsen the humanitarian crisis in Haiti, where residents already face widespread poverty and gang violence. This is Fortune Vidal, a resident of a camp for displaced people in Haiti's western Lake region.
Mandando that if we have nothing in our hands to live on, if a hurricane hits, we're screwed. If the hurricane comes on top of all the problems we already have, we'll simply die. My kids, my wife, and my family are somewhere else. We have nothing to eat to survive. This adds to the problem of bandits shooting all day. There's no way out except to die.
The hurricane exploded in strength from a tropical storm on Saturday to a Category 4 hurricane on Sunday, a rapid intensification made possible by abnormally warm waters in the Caribbean. Climate scientists say human activity is causing oceans to warm dramatically, making rapidly developing storms more common. The United Nations top official says the world has failed to limit global heating to 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, the goal set by the Paris Climate Agreement to prevent the most devastating consequences of the climate crisis. Speaking with The Guardian and the Brazilian news outlet Suma Uma, ahead of next month's COP30 climate summit in Brazil, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said it's now inevitable humanity will overshoot the 1.5-degree target set by the Paris Climate Agreement with devastating consequences for the world.
So overshooting is now inevitable, and so it is absolutely indispensable to change course in order to make sure that overshooting is as small as possible, and this is a basic condition to avoid tipping points. We don't want to see the Amazon as a savanna.
But that is a real risk if we don't change course and if we don't take a dramatic decrease of emissions as soon as possible.
Democracy Now! Will be in Belém, Brazil, covering the UN Climate Summit. In the Gaza Strip, aid organizations warn the amount of food and other basic goods Israel's allowed to enter the Palestinian territory continues to fall far short of the 600 truckloads per day promised under Israel's ceasefire agreement. The UN says the daily number of trucks allowed into Gaza has never passed 200 on any single day in October. Meanwhile, thousands of Palestinians are returning to neighborhoods.
This is Sky News, the headlines. Hurricane Melissa batters Jamaica, bringing winds of up to 185 miles an hour. Dubbed the storm of the century, the catastrophic Category 5 hurricane barreled across the island, wreaking destruction. Hundreds of thousands of people without power as the Red Cross warns 1.5 million people on the island will be directly affected. Blasts are heard in Gaza after Israel's Prime Minister orders his military to carry out powerful airstrikes.
Hello there.
Don't Please lead tributes to the Forky Powers actress Fenella Scales, who has died at the age of 93. And later we'll have a full run-through of the front pages. Good morning. First this hour, Hurricane Melissa has reached Jamaica, with the Category 5 storm bringing winds of up to 185 miles an hour. Dubbed the storm of the century, it brought mandatory evacuations for low-lying areas and knocked out power for hundreds of thousands of people. This report comes from Sky's Martha Kelly.
A generation of disaster is taking hold in Jamaica. The island is in the grips of one of the most powerful hurricanes on record. Roads flooded, power out, and homes destroyed. Melissa touched down on the south coast and talking anything in its path, exposing people here to its full, unforgiving ferocity. This is Black River, a seaside town where the hospital is unable to withstand the wind. Its roof peeled off in a matter of minutes. This hurricane is a nightmare scenario, driven by winds as fast as a race car, but moving through slowly as a mediocre cyclist. The storm will hang over the island for hours, officials hoping their warnings have been heeded.
Jamaica, this is not the time to be brave. I've been saying for one, don't bet against Melissa. It is a bet to be calm.
Aid missions are already underway. Miami has a large Jamaican expat population. Volunteers here packed in sausages, tomatoes and beans to be flown over. Here, people fear that when the skies do finally part in Jamaica, a humanitarian disaster will be revealed. Dana was born and grew up on the island.
Most of the houses in Jamaica, they're not built properly for hurricanes, so we're worried about the people in Jamaica. As much as Jamaica can get, please send help.
My concern is that no one's going to be able to get in or out. Victoria has a home on Jamaica's southwest coast. This is 2 hours. Inflation rises much higher than expected as the storm of the century bears down on the Caribbean. I'm Patricia Carmel, live in the lands of the Ngunnawal people in Parliament House in Canberra. Welcome to Afternoon Briefing. Hurricane Melissa has continued to wreak havoc, battering Jamaica with storm surges, flash flooding and landslides overnight. The storm is expected to make landfall in Cuba within the next hour and has been dubbed the storm of the century by the World Meteorological Organization. For the latest, we're joined by the ABC's Tom Saunders, who has been following the storm in just a moment. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered strikes on Gaza after accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire by attacking Israeli forces.
Hamas has denied involvement in the attack and instead accused Israel of violating the ceasefire, which the group says it remains committed to. And inflation has surged in the September quarter, with consumer prices rising at an annual pace of 3.2%, up from 2.1% in the June quarter. That level of inflation came in much hotter than economists were expecting, with the Treasurer blaming the end of energy subsidies. Now, the Fed's main measure of inflation, which is the Reserve Bank's preferred measure of underlying inflation, also rose from 2.7% to 3%.
Let's begin today with Hurricane Melissa. The storm made landfall in Jamaica today as a Category 5 system with winds of 300 kilometres an hour. Meteorologist Tom Saunders has been watching the hurricane's progression and joins me now. Thanks for your time, Tom. Hurricane Melissa intensified further before making landfall last night.
Patricia, good afternoon to you. Yes, it intensified further, even though it was already a Category 5. Now, on the satellite image, you can clearly make out the eye. It's symmetrical, it's distinct, and that's always an indication of a powerful system. There it is making landfall on the southeast coast of Jamaica. Before that eye just clouded over as it was moving over the inland part of Jamaica earlier today. Now, when it did make landfall, it also reached peak intensity. The pressure dropped to 892 hectopascals, and while the mean winds were about 300 kilometres per hour, the maximum gusts were about 350 kilometres per hour. So with that pressure and wind, that makes it globally.
This is Asia Now.
It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 in New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Ronnie Santani at this hour. U.S. President Donald Trump is in South Korea. Trade tensions high on the agenda for talks with his counterpart Moon Jae-in. But a key meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping is set to overshadow the APEC gatherings. Tensions on the Korean Peninsula flare just before President Trump's arrival. North Korea announces that it test-fired cruise missiles from one of its new warships. And the Gaza ceasefire tested with Israel and Hamas trading fire and blame. Deadly strikes hit the enclave after a dispute over hostage remains. U.S. President Donald Trump is in South Korea for the final leg of his Asia tour. He was welcomed by Foreign Minister Cho Hyun upon arrival at Gimhae International Airport in Busan City, where he boarded a helicopter to Gyeongju. This follows visits to Japan and Malaysia, where he signed trade deals and was hailed by regional leaders as a peacemaker. All eyes are on South Korea now as President Trump prepares for bilateral talks with Chinese leader Xi Jinping tomorrow. But first, the U.S. leader is delivering a keynote speech at the APEC CEO Summit before he meets with South Korean President Moon Jae-in. Trade is expected to dominate discussions between Washington and Seoul as both sides remain at odds over details of their trade deal. The leaders will also likely discuss North Korea, especially after the latest missile launches. For the latest, CNA's senior correspondent Lim Yoon-suk joins us live from Gyeongju. Yoon-suk, bilateral talks between Mr. Trump and Mr. Yi are happening this hour. What's on the table?
Well, yes, they were supposed to meet around this time, but it looks like the summit meeting between the two leaders will be delayed as President Trump is on his way to the CEO summit. But I am outside the Gyeongju National Museum, where you can see behind me, it is that building with the traditional Hanok roofs. Now, the security here is tight too as they wait for Mr. Trump to arrive here for that summit meeting between South Korea and the United States, which is really the highlight of the day here. And, it is going to be beginning with a guest book signing by the U.S. President Donald Trump, an official welcoming ceremony followed by a luncheon meeting, which will be attended by the other ministers here too. But there will also be some symbolic moments inside that Gyeongju National Museum, where President Donald Trump is going to be receiving this Bunha Grand Order, which is South Korea's highest decoration, and this is usually awarded to allied heads of state who have contributed to the nation's security. Now, he is going to be the first U.S. president to be receiving this honor, and also South Korean President Lee Jae-myung will be presenting a replica of South Korea's ancient golden crown, which has been specifically crafted by a master artisan to symbolize the leadership and friendship between the United States and South Korea. And then they will go down to the business. And, the big question is whether the two sides will be able to sign a trade deal or even unveil a broader package that will be included.
The news.
Tension remains high in Cameroon following the proclamation of presidential election results. On Tuesday, protesters disrupted traffic in Douala, with many schools and shops closed for a second day, while a heavy security deployment continued in the capital, Yaoundé. The European nation has expressed deep concern, deploring the deaths of several civilians and calling for investigations and release of those arbitrarily detained. President Paul Biya, the world's oldest serving ruler, secured an 8th term in office on Monday, triggering clashes between security forces and opposition supporters who say the vote was rigged. Opposition Issa Kiroma Bakari and others have rejected the results, citing a weakened electoral system, while third-place finisher Cabral Libi took note of the outcome and effectively conceded.
Madagascar's new military ruler, Colonel Michael Radrianerina, being sworn in as president on Friday. He took control of the country earlier this month after weeks of youth-led protests that forced out his predecessor, Andry Rajoelina. On Tuesday, Radrianerina's military-led government appointed a new cabinet made up mostly of civilian ministers, including several prominent critics of the ousted president. Only 4 of the 29 members are military or paramilitary officers. They were appointed to the ministries of the Armed Forces, Public Security, Land Planning and the Gendarmerie. Last week, businessman and consultant Hirin Salama Rajoelina was named as the nation's new Prime Minister. Tuesday's appointments mark a key moment in the country's political turmoil as the military consolidates power. The new government will be tasked with addressing the chronic power and water shortages that triggered the protests, as well as broader economic challenges. There was no immediate reaction from protest leaders to the cabinet appointments. Sudan's military chiefs seized commanders in the city of El Fasher to withdraw in order to spare civilians from what it describes as systematic destruction and killing at the hands of the rapid support forces RSF. Everyone is following what happened in El Fasher, certainly the leadership there, including the Security Committee, estimated that this should lead the city due to systematic destruction and killing of civilians. It was subjected to the maximum as activists and humanitarian groups reported that RSF fighters in major army base define a governance in the Western Darfur region, marking a significant turning point in the conflict that has devastated Sudan since April 2023.
Good morning, I'm Oliver Ferry, and this is Daybreak, and here are this morning's headlines. Donald Trump arrived in South Korea for the latest leg of his East Asian tour. He will meet with President Lee Jae-myung at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Gyeongju. The U.S. is demanding investment commitments from South Korea, but it's facing resistance from Seoul. At least 30 people are killed in Israeli airstrikes on Gaza, launched, Israel says, in response to Hamas attacks on its troops. Despite the latest threat to the ceasefire, Donald Trump says the troops will hold. Hurricane Melissa batters Jamaica, leaving 500,000 people without electricity and 1 parish underwater, according to authorities. Some 15,000 people have been forced into storm shelters. The island's fiercest ever hurricane leaves a trail of devastation. And in Washington, D.C., Halloween kicks off early with the city's 38th annual high heels race, bringing drag queens to the streets of the U.S. Capitol, taking aim at Donald Trump and his administration.
This is DW News, and these are our top stories. Jamaica has been hit with the full force of Hurricane Melissa. The most powerful storm in the country's history made landfall with winds of up to almost 300 kilometers per hour. The storm brought catastrophic flooding and landslides to much of the island. Hurricane Melissa is now bearing down on Cuba, where it's expected to make landfall Wednesday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered new strikes on Gaza. His office said they are in response to what they called multiple ceasefire violations by Hamas. An Israeli official said Hamas fighters attacked Israeli troops earlier. Hamas denies that claim. Brazilian media are reporting dozens of people have been killed in a sting operation against one of the country's biggest drug trafficking gangs. Some 2,500 police took part in a raid in Rio de Janeiro, which included shootouts and drone attacks. Police have made dozens of arrests. This is DW News from Berlin. You can find much more on our website. That's dw.com.
Melissa's rampage, the most powerful hurricane Jamaica has ever seen, crashes into the Caribbean island, then tears across with torrential rain and super high winds nearing 200 miles an hour, touching off flooding and mudslides and knocking out power. Also tonight, after Border Patrol agents interrupt a town inquiry into Chicago, their boss gets a dressing down for a judge. Bettors wager big money on the performance of athletes, but CBS News learns a crackdown may be coming after some players are accused of cheating. And the town where Halloween is dressed up like something else. It's Chihuahua.
From the CBS headquarters in New York, this is the CBS News.
Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois. I'm John Dickerson. It is a storm for the record books. No Atlantic hurricane stronger than Melissa has ever made landfall. The Cat 5 hurricane crash landed in Jamaica at midday today with maximum sustained winds of 185 miles an hour and gusts much higher than that. Tonight, much of the Caribbean island is in darkness, extraordinarily strong.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.